The dog's fur was matted, its paws raw from days of walking. But what made the man at the cabin drop his beer wasn't the dog's condition, it was what dangled from its collar. A human finger bone, still attached to a fraying strip of nylon, stained and stiff. It was late September 2024, in the damp, pine-soaked expanse of the Mount Shasta region, Northern California. The temperature had begun to drop in the evenings, and the air smelled of rain and soil. When Wildlife Officer Martin Crowley arrived at the cabin near Castle Lake, he knew immediately the bone wasn't from a deer. A forensic unit was dispatched within the hour. What they found buried beneath the moss, less than half a mile from where the dog had wandered in, reopened one of the most chilling missing persons cases in California in the past decade. Inside a shallow crevice, obscured by rocks and overgrowth, were partial human remains, a femur, cracked, pieces of a weathered boot, and part of a tent zipper. The surrounding area was cordoned off. It was a crime scene now. 3 years earlier, in the summer of 2021, 4 friends, all in their mid-20s, had gone missing after a planned 3-day hike through the Trinity Alps wilderness. Their names were Jacob Ellis, 25, Darnell DJ Harris, 24, Morgan Rain, 26, and Kayla Medina, 25. They had left from Weaverville on a Friday morning, backpacks full, heading north toward a loop that was meant to bring them back by Sunday night. They never returned. In the days following their disappearance, rescue operations scoured the 200-square-mile wilderness by foot, horseback, and helicopter. Not a trace was found. Their parked Subaru was still at the trailhead, undisturbed. The last known communication came from Morgan's phone, a photo posted to Instagram showing the group at Canyon Creek Lakes. The timestamp read July 17th, 2021, 4:42 p.m. After that, digital silence. According to Jacob's sister, Natalie, he had planned the route in detail. A laminated itinerary had been left in his desk drawer, showing their path. A clockwise loop with designated camping points and notes about water refill zones. He was overly meticulous, she told investigators. He even packed a GPS beacon, though I don't know if he turned it on. The beacon was never activated. In the initial investigation, search teams found no campsite, no fire pits, no food wrappers. Rangers and volunteers followed the mapped trail and dozens of alternate routes, believing the group might have strayed off course. But what was most unsettling, the weather had been clear. No storms, no flash floods, no landslides. They had vanished under blue skies. Speculation spread. Some suspected the group encountered wildlife. Others whispered about cartel grow operations hidden in the woods, but the sheriff's office dismissed both. There are zero indications of foul play, no calls, no distress signals, no signs of conflict, Sheriff Carlos Lane stated at the time. It's like they stepped off the trail and into the air. That all changed with the dog. The animal, a black and white Australian shepherd named Duke, belonged to Kayla Medina's parents. He had accompanied the group on the trip and was believed lost with them. When he showed up on the porch of a retired logger named Byron Keel 3 years later, it wasn't just a miracle, it was a puzzle. The vet who examined him said the dog had been fending for itself for months, maybe longer, but was still microchipped to the Medinas. Forensic analysis confirmed the finger bone was human, male, and likely between 20 and 30 years old. Within 2 weeks, partial DNA matched it to Darnell Harris. The case was reopened immediately. The investigation returned to the site, now overgrown. Drone footage mapped the area, and ground-penetrating radar was brought in. Within days, search teams uncovered more evidence: fragments of nylon fabric, 3 weathered aluminum tent poles, a crushed camping stove, and, most damning, a cracked phone encased in hardened mud. Investigators cleaned and powered the device. It booted up. The lock screen photo showed all 4 friends, smiling by a cliffside. Timestamp July 18th, 2021, 6:14 p.m. It was the last photo ever taken. The phone's final GPS ping placed them 6 miles east of their expected route, off-trail and deep into unmarked terrain. Reconstructing the last 48 hours of the hike became priority one. Jacob had likely led the detour. He was the one obsessed with old mining maps and backroutes. A PDF titled Alpine Shortcuts, Shasta Mining Trails was found in his Dropbox, downloaded days before the trip. It mentioned a ridge trail, a forgotten miner's path once used to bypass highland crossings. It also contained a caveat, trail not maintained. Landslide in 2003 made sections impassable, so why take it? In a voice message sent the morning of their second day, previously archived in a group chat, Kayla can be heard laughing. "Jake's shortcut better be real, or we're sleeping in poison oak." Her tone is light, unbothered. Investigators believe this was recorded just before the group veered off their planned route. They never re-emerged. The digital evidence raised more questions than answers. How far did they get before something went wrong? And why was only one body found, and even then, only partially? As the search widened around the new coordinates, cadaver dogs alerted near a collapsed slope marked by tangled roots and scree. A small, dented aluminum water bottle was recovered, engraved with DJ. Less than 30 feet away, under a pile of loose rock, investigators found a torn fleece sleeve with a zipper pull still intact. Inside the seam was something else, a thin plastic tag from a dog harness, but Duke was unharmed. At the end of part one, the recovery of that torn fleece, paired with the cracked GPS unit discovered nearby, its data intact but never transmitted, opened new questions. The terrain was treacherous, but not impassable. So why had they stopped there? Why hadn't they used the beacon? And then the most troubling find yet. Inside a shallow divot near the makeshift fire ring, searchers found a scratched message in stone, likely carved by fingernail or knife. One left. Bad fall. Don't wait. The carving was unsigned. But near it, investigators retrieved a small, partially melted GoPro battery. The footage, if recoverable, might finally explain what happened. But for now, the mystery had deepened. The GoPro was found buried beneath loose shale, partially melted, the lens shattered. It had no memory card inside. Investigators hoped the internal storage might still be recoverable, but the device was degraded, warped by moisture and time. It was sent to a digital forensics lab in Sacramento. The results would take weeks. Meanwhile, a new theory began to take form. In the days following the discovery of the message carved into stone, one left. Bad fall, don't wait. Authorities returned to the terrain outlined in the PDF from Jacob's Dropbox. A historic trail etched into the side of Iron Cap Ridge, long since abandoned. What little remained was unstable. Ledges had crumbled. In some places, animal tracks were more visible than any sign of human passage, but one photo changed everything. Among the salvaged files from Morgan Rain's old iCloud backup, a low-resolution image surfaced. The timestamp, July 18th, 2021, 7:08 p.m. The photo showed a blurry sunset taken from a narrow ridgeline. In the lower corner, Jacob's foot could be seen. Investigators matched the background to a rarely photographed bluff known to locals as Deadman's Shelf, a hazardous cut where landslides had reshaped the geography after heavy rains in 2019. Using satellite overlays, drone footage, and topographic reconstruction, the team isolated the area. A 2-day search ensued. On the morning of October 12, 2024, the second major discovery was made. A torn hiking pack wedged between two boulders, partially covered by brush. Inside, protein bars, a notebook warped by rain, and a driver's license belonging to Kayla Medina. The notebook's first 3 pages were indecipherable, ink washed away, but page 4 held a legible passage. DJ is gone. Slipped while trying to get water. I couldn't look. Morgan keeps checking below, but it's too steep. Jake says we have to move. Something's wrong with the trail. We went too far down. Investigators confirmed it was Kayla's handwriting, matched from school records and earlier journal entries. The entry suggested that DJ had suffered a fall, potentially the bad fall mentioned in the stone message. But no remains had been found near the ledge where the fall allegedly occurred. Below that ridge was a deep ravine choked with debris from old landslides. Search teams descended carefully, assisted by ropes and helmets. 2 days later, a skeletal foot, still inside a decayed hiking boot, was found at the base of the slope. DNA confirmed the remains belonged to DJ Harris. No trauma consistent with an animal attack was found, but the boot had been snapped laterally. A forensic podiatrist concluded the ankle was forcibly dislocated during a steep vertical fall. That same day, an officer noted something odd in the discovery report, a set of animal scratches on a nearby boulder, but arranged unnaturally, almost in a grid pattern. Upon closer inspection, they were determined to be claw marks, but they formed a square, not wild scratches, but methodical, like something had been tied or affixed there. As the search intensified, the FBI joined the operation. The inclusion of federal agents was justified due to the growing belief that a third party might have interacted with the group, either during or after their disappearance. This theory was bolstered by a new piece of evidence. Cell tower pings retrieved in 2021, originally deemed inconclusive, were reanalyzed using updated triangulation software. Jacob's phone, believed to have gone dark on July 18th, had actually remained on until the next morning. At 6:12 a.m., it attempted a connection to a distant tower west of the group's known location. The signal lasted under 12 seconds. Investigators now believe that someone, possibly Jacob, tried to reach a signal. But more disturbingly, 2 hours later, Kayla's phone also pinged a separate tower 8 miles south, long after her presumed location based on the GoPro coordinates. That raised a chilling question. Did someone take the phones? Further complicating the narrative was a man named Kyle Pennings, a 37-year-old solo backpacker from Eugene, Oregon, who had been hiking through the Trinity Alps the same weekend the group disappeared. His presence had been noted early in the investigation, but he was dismissed after showing time-stamped photos of himself 40 miles east. However, new analysis of trail cam footage from a forest access gate, previously stored but never reviewed due to poor quality, showed a male figure matching Pennings' build entering the restricted sector near Iron Cap Ridge on July 17th at 3:40 p.m. The time conflicted with his original alibi. When confronted, Pennings maintained his innocence but revised his statement. "I went off trail to avoid smoke from a distant fire. I didn't want to get stuck. I never saw anyone." A search warrant was obtained for Pennings' home. No physical evidence linking him to the hikers was recovered. But buried in a gearbox in his garage was a ripped page from a trail guide, the same vintage publication Jacob had downloaded digitally. On the margin, scribbled in pencil, "Fast drop, avoid gully after second ridge." Handwriting analysis was inconclusive. Back in the forest, one more clue emerged. Under a flat rock near where DJ's body was found, searchers discovered a rusted pocket knife, its blade dull and snapped. Etched into the side were the initials M.R. Morgan Rain. Her body was still missing. The investigation entered a new phase. The GoPro analysis returned. While the card slot was empty, fragments of embedded memory were salvaged. Among corrupted video files, one 18-second clip was partially restored. The footage was shaky, chaotic, and mostly dark, but in the frame, briefly, a figure can be seen yelling, "Wait, don't move!" The voice was tentatively matched to Jacob Ellis. The background appears to show loose terrain, with a figure at the edge of a drop. Then a sound, a crack, followed by static. The video cuts out. With only 2 partial bodies recovered and 2 still unaccounted for, authorities now had more questions than answers. The timeline was unraveling, phones that moved, a dog that survived, and a mysterious man whose story kept shifting. And somewhere out there, evidence still lay buried. The last frame of the video clip, frozen and enhanced by forensic imaging, showed what appeared to be a yellow tent in the distance, half collapsed, among trees no search party had yet explored. It was located several miles east, near an uncharted outcropping known on old logging maps as Spinewood Hollow. The coordinates matched. Spinewood Hollow, once part of a forgotten fire access road, was a remote cut of forest terrain choked with debris and steep ridges. After the GoPro footage revealed a glimpse of what appeared to be a collapsed yellow tent, a tactical team was dispatched. Using satellite overlays and LiDAR terrain scans, investigators triangulated the approximate location and hiked in before dawn on October 27, 2024. What they found, hidden under a curtain of ferns and deadfall, was indeed a tent. Torn, sun-bleached, rotted seams. The surrounding area showed signs of human presence. 2 rusted camp chairs, crushed water jugs, and tangled food wrappers long chewed by animals. One of the wrappers still bore a visible barcode. It matched a purchase from a small gas station in Weaverville, dated July 16, 2021. Inside the tent, forensic technicians uncovered a sleeping bag, partially zipped. A comb with strands of long, dark hair. A cracked watch still ticking, set to 2:23, and beneath a folded tarp, a faded journal, damp but mostly intact. The name Morgan was etched on the inside cover. Its entries began as cheerful updates. July 16th. Made it through first leg. Jake's shortcut looks real. Can't wait to prove everyone wrong. Camped near a ridge with a killer view. DJ won't shut up about his gut feeling, but he's always like that. By July 18th, the tone shifted. July 18th. Something's off. Kayla swears she heard a voice last night. We chalked it up to wind, but there were footsteps, not ours. The final entry, smeared in places but legible, was dated July 19th. Jake's not back. He went looking for reception at dawn and never returned. Kayla begged me not to write this down. She thinks if we write it, it makes it real, but something's wrong with him. With all of this, the GPS won't lock. The sun doesn't rise where it should. The path changed. We're being watched. This was the first time in the investigation that one of the group members was mentioned as possibly having disappeared before the others. Until then, authorities had worked under the assumption the group remained together until their fate was sealed. The journal fractured that narrative. Search patterns were redrawn. As dusk settled that day, one of the cadaver dogs made a hard alert near a narrow creek bed, nearly 300 meters from the camp. Beneath a shallow overhang, concealed by leaves, were partial remains, a human skull with dental features matching Morgan Rain. Nearby, buried in sediment, was her phone, still waterlogged, but intact. Back at the digital lab, it revealed its contents. The phone had never been turned off. Its battery had simply died on July 21st, 2021 at 3:42 a.m. Before then, there were dozens of notes, including unsent messages. One draft, never delivered, read, "If anyone finds this, we made a mistake going off trail. We thought we knew better. Someone was here. Someone still might be. Jake didn't fall. He ran. Something scared him." Authorities now faced a disturbing pattern. DJ likely died in a fall. Morgan was found hiding, possibly trying to send a final message. Kayla's last known location was still unknown. And Jacob gone without a trace. Until the dog came back, no physical evidence had been recovered that pointed to Jake's whereabouts. But now, with fresh forensic eyes on the gear recovered from Spinewood Hollow, a single thread emerged, a coarse nylon fragment from a backpack strap, traced back to a specific brand and model, a model Jacob's family confirmed he owned. But this piece wasn't found in the tent. It had been embedded, torn, into the bark of a tree nearly 150 feet upslope, as if ripped during a frantic escape or confrontation. Then came the twist. An independent hiking vlogger, Jamie Corrin, had unknowingly captured a silent clue. Reviewing footage from her solo trip through the southern boundary of the Trinity Alps in July 2021, she discovered a brief moment, 5 seconds at most, where a figure in the background appeared among the trees. Timestamp: July 21st, 2021, 4:58 p.m. The man wore a dark hoodie, a torn sleeve, and was barefoot. He looked over his shoulder just once, then vanished into the forest. Jamie had uploaded the footage to her channel months earlier, unnoticed. Only after seeing a local news story about the reopened case did she contact authorities. Forensic video analysts enhanced the image. The resolution was poor, but Jacob's father, shown the still frame, whispered, "That's him, that's my son." Investigators were cautious. They couldn't confirm it, not without clear identifiers, but the size, posture, and backpack matched Jacob Ellis. If true, it meant Jacob had survived at least 3 days longer than the others. But why hadn't he come back? Why hadn't he activated the beacon? One theory, whispered among the agents, took shape. What if Jacob had fled? What if something happened among the group? A fracture, a fight, a breakdown, and he left them behind? It wouldn't be the first time a tragedy masked something more deliberate. In early November 2024, investigators received a final piece of data. A GPS beacon log file, previously assumed corrupted, was partially recovered. It showed a brief activation, just 22 seconds, on the morning of July 19th, 2021. Coordinates placed the signal 1.2 miles southeast of Spinewood Hollow, exactly where Jacob was last possibly seen. And then, nothing. No more signals. No more pings. No more messages. Only a hollow trail of bones, half-truths, and a dog that somehow, against all odds, found its way home. The final known ping placed Jacob Ellis just over a mile southeast of Spinewood Hollow, a ravine marked by erosion, fallen logs, and a maze of granite ledges. Investigators focused on this location throughout early November, expanding their grid into a sector that had never been reached during the original 2021 search. On November 14, 2024, under dense canopy and cold drizzle, searchers recovered a boot. It was partially buried beneath riverstone and moss, wedged between the roots of an overturned tree. DNA testing confirmed it belonged to Jacob. A week later, less than 200 feet from that site, the remains of a campfire were discovered, long dormant. Near it lay a torn fleece, a rusted fork, and something else. A human molar fractured, with trace amounts of blood and pine resin fused to the enamel. It was Jacob's. Forensic odontologists determined the tooth had been dislodged by blunt trauma, not decay or scavenging, and yet no remains were found. Not a body, not bones, not even clothing beyond the boot and fleece. It was as if Jacob Ellis had evaporated beyond this point. Without physical confirmation of death, the case remains officially unresolved. The FBI concluded its field investigation in late December. A final report was issued to the families, summarizing the known timeline. July 16th, 2021, group departs Weaverville. July 17th, group ventures off-trail via an unmaintained mining path. July 18th, DJ Harris suffers fatal fall. July 19th, Jacob Ellis activates GPS beacon briefly, disappears shortly after. July 20th, 21, Morgan and Kayla remain intent. Morgan dies from unknown causes. Kayla Medina remains unlocated. The fate of Kayla is still unknown, whether she perished deeper in the wilderness or possibly escaped and never resurfaced remains open to interpretation. No forensic trace of her has ever been found, no personal items, no biological evidence. Her family maintains a private investigation, operating under the belief she may have encountered someone in the forest who facilitated her disappearance, willingly or not. As for the dog, Duke, he has become something of a symbol, a survivor. He's returned to the Medina home in Santa Rosa, where he sleeps in Kayla's old room. He has not, since the day of his return, strayed more than a few feet from the front door. There are no criminal charges filed. Kyle Pennings, the solo hiker whose timeline was questioned, remains a person of interest, but no direct connection could be established. He declined further interviews and relocated to Idaho shortly after the case was reclassified. The families of DJ Harris and Morgan Rain held a joint memorial in January 2025. Jacob's parents have chosen not to hold services until full remains are recovered. 3 lives confirmed lost, 1 never found, and 1, Jacob, suspended in legal limbo. In the final review of the GoPro footage, analysts isolated ambient audio beyond the final crash. Just before the video cuts out, a faint voice, distant, hoarse, can be heard shouting, "Come back!" Who the voice belonged to remains unverified. In a press briefing held quietly and without fanfare, Sheriff Lane said, "We believe we've recovered most of what's recoverable. But wilderness doesn't always give back everything. Some answers stay buried, and some people, for reasons we may never understand, don't want to be found." The Trinity Alps remain open to hikers. The trail the group took has been reclassified as hazardous and removed from public maps. But for those who followed this case, the mountains now hold more than fog and silence. They hold echoes of laughter, of panic, of fading footprints, and of a dog limping home with the only piece of truth he could carry.